Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be the Offlane tier list for patch 7.31b, and as always, before we jump into it, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of how I arrived at this list. So first, I look at the Trends tab here, I look at the Divine and Immortal games, basically I line all the heroes up based on their win rates and pick rates, and then I look at the Dota 2 Pro Tracker meta, and then I look at the DPC games in the recent season. So I weigh those games, I weigh the Pro meta a little bit higher, and then pretty much it's a little bit of subjectivity, kind of where I think things should go, but it's mostly just based on those statistics. And how I weigh those. So that's how I arrived at this list. Now let's just jump into the S tier, and the first hero here in S tier is going to be Primal Beast. So Primal Beast is absolutely ridiculous right now. I think this hero is completely broken. When it was first released, I think it was a little bit underwhelming, but I think it was more that people just didn't really understand how to play it. Yes, maybe the overall numbers on all of the abilities weren't that great, but they did buff it, I think, basically twice. I think they gave it one kind of hidden patch that no one really talked about. They just kind of buffed the hero without dropping a full patch, and then they actually buffed it a little bit in the subsequent patch, in the B patch where we're at right now. So now this hero is absolutely insane. Basically, I recently made a guide for this hero, and you can just stomp every single lane. There's nothing the enemy can do about it. Even if you have a hero like Anti-Mage or Slark or any kind of hero that has some kind of positioning mobility spell where you can potentially get out of his trample, get out of his, trample combined with uproar, it doesn't even matter, because then he can just, once he's level 3 and he has 1 point in each of these, he can just use this afterwards and just chase you down and just stomp you. This hero is absolutely insane. He has insane HP, so he can dive towers. I think that's the real thing. That's the problem, is that you're just not safe under the tower. And because his damage with trample makes him disarmed, basically he can't right click you, I believe, if I'm correct, the tower doesn't aggro you if you just don't click them. So if you just run around them, and the creeps, your creeps are under the tower, he can just dive tower for free and just kill you. It's insane. This hero's absolutely ridiculous. Now, the thing is, this hero kind of falls off later, but if you're having a good game and you scale correctly and you buy BKB, you can even, I've seen people buy Radiance on this hero. You can buy a bunch of, good items, and then once you get to level 25, you have, your Pulverize that is basically doubled. So now you hit people 6 times. You basically kill everybody full to 0 in that duration, because your teammates are going to come. They're going to do even more damage. You're stunning everybody in an AoE. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the low cooldowns on all these spells means this hero can fight constantly. So, obviously this hero relies on BKB, but other heroes rely on long cooldowns, other ultimates, things to save them. And then this hero just doesn't even care about that. You pop BKB, you use your spells, and this hero just runs in and kills you right after that, because in 30 seconds he has his entire kit up again. And he's kind of tiny in the fact that he has ridiculous HP. I mean, once you get to the late game, this hero has 4k plus HP. It's ridiculous. It's so hard to kill him. So that's Primal Beast. It's a really fun hero, pretty broken right now. I think it'll be nerfed in the future, but Offlane I think is one of the main roles. Offlane or support, honestly, are the 2 main roles this hero plays. Then next we're going to look at Death Prophet. So Death Prophet is pretty much one of the heroes of the patch, especially in the DPC, and that's because this hero is able to be flexed in a lot of different positions. This hero can play mid, it can play offlane, it can play pretty much either support role. So this hero is highly, highly contested. It's pretty much picked or banned almost every single game in the DPC. And the main core role that this hero is playing, it seems to be offlane. It's usually thought of as a mid. It can still go mid, but offlane, it just crushes lanes. This hero just cannot die with the Spirit Siphon. It's ridiculous once you get the Shard with the fear on the Spirit Siphon. It's so hard to deal with because you kind of have to back off and then go back in, and it's so weird. You don't want to just sit there under the Spirit Siphon. The Exorcism obviously takes buildings super fast. It's impossible to fight into it. There's just so many things about this hero that are crazy. It also can dominate lanes really, really hard. This is kind of the hero of the patch, I think, in a lot of ways, as this hero is just absolutely ridiculous. And there's nothing super crazy about the hero. I don't think there's anything super busted in the sense that oh, there's this new thing. It's more maybe the fear on the Spirit Siphon I talked about, but just in general, the hero is overall getting better, getting buffs, because it hasn't really been relevant for a long time, but now it's just super powerful. And I think from the offlane, you can dominate lanes with this hero. You can dominate games with this hero. It does a little bit of everything. Team fight, Roche, taking towers, just everything. It's really, really good. Super survivable as well. So that's Death Prophet. And then next we'll have Sand King. Sand King, I don't believe there's anything crazy about Sand King that's been super buffed. It's not like this hero had a fundamental change in how it works. It's just that the shard is pretty good. All of his abilities are generally good. He just has kind of slight buffs, and he's just generally pretty good overall as a hero. He's just been a consistent, stable offlaner for a while now, honestly. And then in recent patches, he's just gotten some quality of life buffs, some, I think, talent tree changes as well that just make him a little bit better. And now he's just kind of the top, just stable offlaner. I think in the past it was something like Tide. He's similar to Tide in that way. It's just like a good ultimate, good stun, good laning stage, all these kinds of things. Just be careful with this hero is that you can have trouble against kind of like anti-mage and some other matchups, so it's very matchup dependent, but this hero can just be a great all-around offlaner. And I think especially in pros, where, you at least have to show a core pick early. Sand King is just one of those all-around great offlaners you can pick early and not feel really bad about it. So he's been highly contested there, and in pubs, he's just one of the most picked offlanes, so I'm putting him up there as well, and his win rate's really, really good as well. So that's Sand King. Nothing super crazy or new about Sand King, just typical Sand King stuff that he's really, really good now. And then next, we're going to go to A tier, and there's at least one hero here that I think should be S tier, but I'm just going to not be super subjective and put my, opinion above the rest, and that is Necro. I think Necro is completely broken right now. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think this hero is really, really good. I think just the shard at 15 minutes is really powerful, and obviously the ultimate now giving you those regen stacks I think is really good because it just helps you survive even more. You can dominate lanes from the mid lane, but you can really dominate lanes in the off lane especially too. Now you do need to be careful against certain matchups. I know Slark, Juggernaut, some of these heroes can run you down early, but if you just play safe for the first few levels, you will just start snowballing, stomping lanes. You don't need to buy regen. You can just kill people super easily. If it's a game where they don't have a lot of magic damage or any dispels, this hero will just honestly destroy. Like, it's impossible to kill this hero. It's impossible to win games, honestly, against the Necro if, there's no dispel and nobody really wants to buy Nullifier, and also they don't have magic damage. Like, those three combinations, like, you have to have something to deal with this hero because it's ridiculous. And you can buy Ags, you can buy Heart, you get all this regen, you have all this HP, you do insane damage. It's just absolutely ridiculous what this hero does. Especially against heroes like Tiny or other really tanky heroes, even really good heroes like Primal Beast, all these like high HP heroes that are like pretty popular this patch. Necro's really good against Huskar. He just counters so many heroes that are good right now, and in general, I think this hero is just amazing in lane, just stomps. He's just so good, just in general. So that's Necro. Beastmaster, pretty good for all the same reasons Beastmaster has always been good. I think now just with the jungle changes, he even has more options for those creeps that he can get with the Dominator, so just really, really good in that sense. Night Stalker just kind of been on the rise, just a generally good offlaner, can kind of just run in. When it's nighttime, this hero is bar none, kind of the best hero in the game in a lot of ways. He can just dominate games when it's nighttime, when he has his ultimate up. It's just playing around that's the problem. And right now, it just doesn't seem like the daytime is that bad for this hero because you'll usually have your ultimate up during the day, and you can just pop it in a team fight. That vision game is just crazy. He also does insane damage right now. Really, really good hero for that. Viper's just generally kind of been one of these offlaners that is just being an annoying offlaner. I really wouldn't put him in the A tier, but I mean, his statistics bear this out. He's just being picked a lot. He's really good. He's consistent. You can just like spit on people in the lane. Honestly, even though I would say he's not like the best offlaner in general, because I think he's sort of weird once you get into that later portion of the game, that mid portion of the game, like where do you go, how do you farm, what do you do, because you don't initiate, you don't really do too much in that sense. But I will say, as a carry player, if I have an offlane, if I'm playing against an offlane Viper, my life is just hell, to be honest. It's so bad because there's so few heroes that can deal with this hero in the lane. It's just so annoying. And honestly, with that shard, when you use your poison attack on towers, they just melt. So this hero can be really, really good. You can also build tanky. You can build for team fight. You can build as like another carry. And that's kind of one theme too, is there's a lot of heroes in the offlane recently that have been played almost like a carry. I'm not going to talk about them here. I didn't put them on this list, but we've been seeing like AM offlane. We've been seeing some other weird offlanes, just like, now that Viper's offlane, Death Prophet's offlane. Offlane has kind of been shifting around in a really interesting way, even like OD offlane in the last few patches. So just keep that in mind. Next is Pango. Pango has just been, I think, just better in general. He had a patch a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago or so, where he was like really good when they changed the slow to be on his shield crash. But I think just in general, this hero's gotten better since. He just causes so much chaos. You have different item builds you can go now with the Diffusal Rush, all these different things. He just has so much team fight control. So unless you're against like a Bloodseeker or something, you just kind of will just control games, dominate games, and your laning stage has gotten a lot better with that shield crash, those kinds of things. I think Pango's just decent all around. Dragon Knight has kind of went from like F tier. He was absolutely dog shit for a long time. He was really strong in one patch, and they changed a bunch of things about him. They nerfed him a bunch. But now with the shard change, with his fireball at 15 minutes, he's actually a lot better because you can get that blink and that fireball, and then you can just, blink in, stun people, put the fireball down. It does insane damage. You can clear creep waves. That shard change really, really helped him, and he's really popular now in a lot of pro games and a lot of high tier metas. He's not as popular in the lower tiers, so it's not like I didn't put him at S or anything, but he is really hotly contested and really, really popular in the pros right now. And then lastly, we have CK. CK, it's one of those heroes that has kind of been an offlaner recently, even though it's not typically thought of as an offlaner, but it is recently an offlaner, and you can kind of play carry from the offlane with this hero. So don't pick Wraith King, don't pick any of those other, carries from the offlane. I would say Chaos Knight is a legitimate kind of offlaner that can transition or be sort of a carry, because this hero has an insanely good laning stage. He's super tanky, he's hard to bring down, he has a reliable stun that you can kind of cast from distance. He's an illusion hero that's really hard to deal with. He just is great all around. He can take towers early, he can just do so many things. Chaos Knight is a great carry, but he's also really, really good in the offlane now. So honestly, if you want to like play offlane and you just want to carry games, add that extra core that can carry, play Chaos Knight right now. Learn this hero. It's pretty good. Also, the Shard is very good on that hero as well. So that's A tier. You can't really go wrong with picking any of these heroes. And next we'll move on to B tier. This is the biggest tier here, which is kind of how, tier list should be. The middle should be the biggest. But all of these heroes are just solid right now. You can't go wrong picking these heroes. Mars, stable, consistent, good offlaner for a long time. Timbersaw is one of those kind of cheesy, unique heroes. If it's the right game for Timbersaw, if you know how to play Timbersaw, you can dominate games. Veno has been on the rise a little bit. This hero's decent. It can be okay. It just depends. I've seen games in the DPC where this hero does the most damage in the game. It just absolutely destroys games with the with his ultimate, these kinds of things. If you can push towers with the wards, if people have a hard time clearing out wards, you can just kind of take over portions of the map. The vision game with wards is really, really important too. It's just a pretty good offlaner. You can dominate a lot of lanes with it as well, if the carry can't, deal with those wards. Spirit Breaker was kind of one of the heroes of last patch. Got nerfed a little bit, but is still relevant. You can still play this hero and be really good with this hero. I just think it's just not broken like it was. So you're not seeing as much of it, but it still is consistent. Legion Commander, again, not as broken. The BKB on his W, I think it was taken away, and the shard was changed, so it's not as good as it once was, but it's still consistent, still pretty good, has a good laning stage. For all the same reasons Legion was good before, it's still good. Same thing with OD. OD is kind of a little bit worse, but didn't get really super nerfed in any meaningful way. It's just that this hero is just not as good as it once was. A few patches ago, it's not as annoying, it's not crazy broken, but it's still consistent. You can still play it from the offlane, have a good time. It's just not crazy broken like before. Slardar kind of coming up in the meta, pretty good. It's a consistent all-around good offlaner to pick. I think, if you want to pick a good offlaner, pick Slardar, pick Centaur, another really good, just standard offlaner. I think that Shard actually makes Centaur pretty good. Axe is another one that got buffed. And now Axe is kind of rising back up into the meta, not to where he used to be when the Shard, I think it was the Shard, was different and he could buy like a Manta and stuff. It's not really quite that good, but there are games where this hero can get a bunch of dunks, get a bunch of stacks of armor, and just absolutely destroy games. So these are kind of three solid offlaners I would pick just as a normal offlaner that you can't go wrong with. Lycan, still good, kind of like Beastmaster, but just not as good. I just don't think he's as good as Beastmaster, but he's still relevant. Magnus has kind of been at a weird spot ever since TI-10, but he's still solid. He's still good. I mean, even though you don't technically stun people with the horn toss, it's still relatively decent. You can get people out of position and play really well. He's just not the best laner. He's not the best offlaner in general. Razor's kind of a carry offlaner. Razor's pretty good in general this patch, and if it's the right matchup and these kinds of things, you can get away with it and do pretty well. But keep in mind, this hero doesn't farm well, he doesn't initiate these kinds of things, so you can kind of grief your team if you do pick that. Nature's Prophet has gotten a little bit better in the recent patch, so he's just kind of stable right now all around. If you know how to play Nature's Prophet, if you're not going to grief the team, I think you can pick this hero. Broodmother is another kind of cheese hero. If you play Broodmother, you can probably play it offlane, but for whatever reason, it's kind of more of a mid now. I think it needs to get that farm. It needs to kind of dominate the lane. It just is doing really well mid, but just not as much of an offlaner like it was, 6 months to a year ago. So that's B tier. Next, we're going to move on to C tier. Again, these heroes are viable, but just not the best. Brewmaster, I think, look for Brewmaster to make his way up this tier. Right now, it's not doing that well. It's not that contested. It's not hotly contested. It's not doing well in pubs. But I think with the change that happened in 7.31, it actually is a good hero. I think this hero could potentially be broken, but people just don't know how to play it. So keep that in mind. I think it's going to be on the uptrend. Right now, it's okay, just not the best. Batrider was broken at the start of the patch, then got nerfed. I think it's still pretty good. Probably better as a mid laner. Doom, good for all the reasons Doom is good, but now is a little bit better because of the creeps, so he can get all these different creeps. Any hero that controls creeps or gets creep abilities is going to be really good this patch. Darkseer kind of on the downtrend, but still decent. Kunkka, okay in the offlane, more of kind of a mid, but is at a weird spot. He can be really powerful in some games and really bad in others. Marcy kind of at a weird spot, falls off. I don't know. I don't really see much Marcy. Not getting played a lot, not getting, picked a lot. It's just kind of a weird hero right now. Enigma at a weird spot. Decent, obviously, for all the reasons. Enigma's, decent, but just kind of at a weird spot. Tidehunter is good, but just falling off compared to all the other stable offlaners because he was so good at TI and he was so good for a while. I think he's just kind of on the downtrend here. And Tusk is sort of on the uptrend as an offlaner and a 4 in general. I think Tusk is getting better. He was kind of pretty good at one point, then fell off, was pretty bad at one point recently, and now I think he's coming back. He's getting better. I think you can potentially play this hero as offlane and actually stomp games. You can kind of like one-shot people with your ultimate, and you're just this big threat. You also have a save for all the different things that happen in the game. Pretty good hero right now. And then D tier, we have Bristleback. I think you can still play Bristleback offlane if you know what you're doing and you're at a lower level, but it's just there's so many breaks now in the game that they've added. There's so many different ways to deal with this hero. I just don't think it's as good. Bloodseeker is kind of, I don't know if it's a great offlane. I think it's kind of transitioning actually more to a carry with the recent changes. I've seen, pro players, higher MMR players, and even some players in my pubs do pretty well with Bloodseeker carry. Just the offlaner, I think it's kind of transitioning away from offlane where it used to be good recently. Venge, not a great offlaner. I don't think it's really that good right now. It's viable, but not great. Same thing with Phoenix. Abaddon, there's kind of some theory crafting about like offlane Abaddon or carry Abaddon with this, with the Shard and with Battle Fury and stuff, but it's not really. It's more of a meme build right now. Earthshaker, more of a support. Same thing with Elder Titan, more of a support. Dawnbreaker is just, I don't even know. This hero is a weird hero. It's like a League of Legends hero. I don't think nobody really plays this hero. It's almost like more of a carry sometimes or a support. Bounty Hunter, kind of more of a support. It's one of these heroes with the ags and stuff. It can be really good, but if it's not a good game for Bounty and you don't have a good lane, you don't know how to play it, you're going to be like pretty bad with this hero. And then lastly in that D tier, we have Underlord. I mean, Underlord could potentially be C. It is better. His ultimate is better, but it's just one of these things. I don't know that, people really have figured out the best way to use the hero. It's not like there's a lot of heroes that Underlord is good against in the meta that are popular right now. He is good against PL, which is okay. He is good against illusion heroes if they do pick that, and I think the ultimate is better than it was. But the other thing I didn't actually realize, the enemy can go through the ultimate too. So if you try to use the ultimate to get away and you go somewhere, the enemy can just go through it with you, which is interesting. I think this hero could potentially be better, especially in like DPC matches, pro matches. I think this hero could do a lot with coordination. I just don't think it's kind of like Brewmaster. People just haven't figured out how to use it yet. And then lastly, as always, we have the F tier, which is Pudge. Pudge is still garbage. I know that new change, I thought the new change to him was terrible. I thought that it was really bad. Ends up being that it's pretty good in some cases for like damage over time with magic damage. And obviously it makes you not take damage from rot. But the hero is still kind of dog shit. It's still pretty bad. I still would not pick it in the offlane. I still would not pick it in general. I think it's just not a great hero right now. I wish it would be. I wish they would buff it because everyone loves Pudge. Everyone loves playing Pudge and watching Pudge. It is annoying to play against when you get hooked out of position. I know. But I wish they would at least get this hero into the meta in some meaningful way. But it's still just kind of half griefing right now. So that is my offlane tier list. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think something should be higher, lower, what you think about that based on pubs or, pro meta, etc., etc. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of those kinds of things. Join the Discord to request replay reviews if you haven't haven't already. I also will do community games every Saturday now. And if you want coaching, go to my Patreon to get coaching there, and also support me in general if you can, if you want to see more good content like this. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.